It was supposed to be a normal night. A little too much noise, a little too much makeup, and a heart still bleeding beneath a smile that didn't belong to her. Amelia Cross stood at the edge of the rooftop bar, clutching her glass of wine like it might hold her together. She told herself she was fine, that she didn't care seeing her ex across the room with another woman, but she did. And that tiny crack in her calm was all it took for fate to slip through. Across the bar, a man sat alone. Black suit, no tie, sharp jawline. He wasn't trying to be seen, but the world noticed him anyway. Eyes like winter, cold, observing, dangerous. The kind of man who didn't look at you, he studied you. And when Amelia's gaze met his, the city noise went quiet. He raised his glass slightly. A silent toast. She almost looked away, almost. But then, she saw her ex laugh, his hand on someone else's back, and something inside her snapped. She turned back to the stranger. And for the first time that night, she made a decision. She walked toward him. Every step deliberate, every heartbeat louder than the last. He didn't move, didn't smile, didn't ask, just watched, as if he'd known she'd come to him all along. "Can you do something crazy for me?" His brow lifted. Not curiosity, but command. "Depends what you call crazy." She swallowed, forcing a shaky smile. "I just need you to kiss me." He studied her face for a long moment. The silence between them sharp enough to cut air. Behind her, her ex's laughter echoed again. Too loud, too cruel. She looked down, ready to walk away. But before she could, his hand brushed her wrist. Gentle, firm, certain. And then, the world disappeared. The kiss wasn't planned. It wasn't polite. It was the kind that rewrote everything in one heartbeat. He kissed her like a man who didn't ask for permission, but gave something instead. Something unspoken, something dangerous. When she finally pulled back, she was breathless. Not from fear, but from recognition. Like her body had known this moment long before her mind did. The stranger's eyes softened, but his tone stayed quiet. "You just started something you can't finish," he said. Amelia tried to laugh, but it came out as a whisper. "Who are you?" He leaned close enough for her to feel his words more than hear them. "Someone your ex should never have let you near." By the time she turned to look, her ex had vanished into the crowd, and the stranger was gone too. No name, no number, just the lingering taste of danger, and the echo of a kiss she couldn't forget. That night, as she rode home in the back of a cab, she stared at her reflection in the window. Her lipstick smudged, her pulse uneven, her heart alive again for the first time in months. She didn't know his name. Didn't know that her one reckless moment had just crossed paths with a man who owned half the city, a man feared by everyone. Except her, and that one kiss, the one meant to make her ex jealous, had just made the Mafia boss fall in love. The night after that kiss felt longer than any she'd ever known. Sleep wouldn't come, not when every breath still carried the scent of him, danger and warmth, smoke and temptation, the kind that lingers even when you try to forget. Amelia told herself it didn't mean anything. It was a kiss, just a kiss. But the truth was, no one had ever kissed her like that. Not to own her, not to break her, but to awaken something inside her she didn't know existed. She tried to go back to her life, the studio, the sketches, the quiet corner cafe where no one knew her name. But the city had changed. Every streetlight felt like an eye. Every passing car felt like it knew her secret. Then it happened. A delivery at her apartment. No name, no sender, just a single white envelope, sealed with black wax. Her fingers trembled as she opened it. Inside, a photograph. The rooftop bar, her and him caught mid-kiss. The angle perfect, the timing deliberate, and below it, in silver ink, "Next time, don't run." Her pulse spiked. Who was he? Was it a warning? Or an invitation? She turned the photo over. A single word written on the back. Dante. That was his name, Dante Moretti. And the moment she read it, the city's rumors made sense. The whispers about the man who ran everything but spoke to no one. The one who built empires in silence and buried enemies without sound. They called him Il Lupo, the wolf. And she had kissed him. Amelia laughed under her breath, half terrified, half in disbelief. This was insane. People didn't survive encounters with men like him. They disappeared after them. She dropped the photo into the drawer, locked it away, and swore she'd forget his name by morning. But morning didn't care. Because he was already waiting, her favorite coffee shop, her safe space. And there he was, sitting at her table like he belonged there, dark coat, no expression. Just those eyes, cold as marble and twice as beautiful. She froze. Every voice in her head screamed run, but her body didn't move. Dante, low, controlled. "I told you not to run." Her voice cracked as she whispered. "You followed me?" He tilted his head slightly, calm, unreadable. Not followed, found. He slid something across the table. Her own sketchbook. She hadn't even realized it was missing. "I believe this belongs to you," he said softly. No threat, no smile. Just quiet power. The kind that makes the air heavier. Her breath caught. "How did you—" He leaned in just enough for his voice to brush her skin. "I don't like loose ends, Amelia." She met his gaze. Defiant, scared, curious all at once. "What do you want from me?" His lips curved just slightly. "The truth. You kissed me for a reason. I want to know why." Her chest tightened. It wasn't a demand. It was a confession disguised as one. He wasn't used to being the one left behind. She looked away, whispering, "I just wanted to make someone jealous." Dante's eyes darkened, not with anger, but something deeper. Possession. Pain. The kind only a man with no weakness would ever allow himself to feel. He leaned closer, his breath warm against her ear. "Then you succeeded, Karamia. Because now, I can't stop thinking about you." For a moment, the world disappeared again. No cafe, no past, no ex, no fear. Just two people sitting in the eye of a storm they didn't understand. And deep down, Amelia knew. The moment she said his name, her life stopped being her own. Because Dante Moretti didn't fall in love. He claimed it. She didn't remember walking home that night. Her mind was too full. His eyes, his voice, his name echoing like a secret she wasn't supposed to know. Dante Moretti. Even thinking it out loud felt dangerous. The city moved around her like it always did. Cars, lights, noise. But she was somewhere else entirely. Inside her, a storm had started, and no amount of silence could calm it down. She tried to convince herself it was just attraction. Just a kiss. Just a mistake she could forget if she stayed away. But deep down, she knew. You can't stay away from something that already has your pulse memorized. When she got home, her phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. "Be careful who you talk to." Her heart froze. No name, no context. Just a warning. She looked out her window. The street below was quiet. Too quiet. A black car sat at the corner, headlights off, engine humming. She pulled the curtain shut, her breath shaky. Was it him, or someone else watching her? By morning, she was a different person. Tired, restless, distracted. At work, her best friend Clara noticed. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said with a small laugh. She tried to smile, just didn't sleep much. But the truth pressed heavier than exhaustion. Because every time she blinked, she saw him sitting across that cafe table. His calm voice, that dangerous certainty in his tone. And somewhere between fear and fascination, she realized. She wanted to see him again. It was insane, unforgivable. But the way he made her feel, seen, alive, awake, was something no one else ever had. That night, when she got home, she found another envelope under her door. Her fingers hesitated before picking it up. The same black wax, the same seal. Inside, just one note. "If anyone asks about me, say nothing." And below it, his signature this time. DM. She swallowed hard. So it was him. Her mind raced. Was this protection or control? Did he care about her safety, or was she just another piece on his board? She wanted to be angry. To call him out. To tell him he didn't get to play savior and sinner at the same time. But when she saw that small detail, the corner of the note smudged with charcoal, she realized he'd touched it himself. He'd written it. For her. And somehow that meant more than it should have. She sat on her bed, staring at the note until her vision blurred. Her body was trembling, but not from fear anymore, from awareness, from the dangerous truth she could no longer hide from herself. He wasn't just a name now. He was a presence. a gravity pulling her closer, no matter how much she resisted. She told herself to stop before it was too late, but every time she whispered, "Forget him," her heart answered back, "You already belong to him." And somewhere across the city, in a dimly lit penthouse high above the skyline, Dante stood by the window, phone in hand. He'd sent the message himself. He could have had anyone, but he wanted her, not because she was beautiful, not because she was kind, but because she looked at him without fear, and that made her dangerous. He exhaled slowly, watching the city lights flicker below. For the first time in years, the king of the underworld felt something he couldn't control. And he knew. This wasn't a warning for her. It was a warning for himself. The next 3 days passed like smoke. Thin, fragile, impossible to hold. She tried to live normally, tried to forget the notes, the name, the way his voice still echoed through her bones. But how do you forget a man who feels like gravity? At work, every time her phone buzzed, her breath caught. At night, every sound outside her window felt like footsteps. Steady, deliberate, familiar. And then, on the 4th night, it came, a white envelope. No seal this time, just her name, written in ink so dark it almost looked alive. She opened it slowly, hands trembling, as if the paper itself might burn her. Inside, an invitation card. Gold edges, black lettering, formal, elegant, cold, dinner, 8 p.m. Valaro Club. Come alone. DM. Her pulse skipped a beat. The same club where they first met. The same mistake that had started everything. She wanted to tear the note in half, to throw it away, to pretend she hadn't seen it, but her body didn't listen. Because deep down, she already knew she would go. At 7:50, she stood in front of the mirror. Black dress, red lips, nervous heart. Everything about her looked composed, except her eyes. They betrayed the truth, that she was terrified and alive, all at once. When she arrived, the club was quieter than usual. No crowd, no music, just candlelight and shadows dancing against marble. The maître d' greeted her softly. "Miss Veras, he's expecting you." Her throat tightened. She hadn't given her name. She didn't have to. The moment she stepped inside, she felt it. His presence. It filled the room before she even saw him, and then there he was. Dante Moretti, seated alone at the far end of the private dining hall. Black suit, no tie, eyes like midnight before a storm. He rose when she approached. Didn't smile, didn't speak, just looked at her, long enough to remind her what it felt like to be seen and studied at the same time. "Sit," he said quietly. Not a command, not a request. Something in between. She sat. Her hands folded in her lap, too still. He poured her wine. His movements, precise, effortless, controlled. The kind of control that came from danger, not gentleness. "You shouldn't have sent that message," she said finally. Her voice was steady, more than she expected. His gaze lifted. "What message?" "The one that said, 'Be careful who you talk to.'" A small pause. Then the faintest curve of a smile. "Maybe I was trying to protect you." "From who?" she asked. "From me." The words hit her harder than she wanted them to. For a moment, she forgot how to breathe. He leaned back, his tone still calm, but his eyes told another story entirely. "You think I'm dangerous," he said. "You're right. I am." Her lips parted. "I didn't ask for this." "I know," he said softly. "But you walked into my world the moment you sat at that wrong table." The silence stretched between them, heavy, magnetic, filled with something that shouldn't exist between strangers. Then he said, almost gently, "Tell me, why didn't you run?" She looked at him, really looked, at the man everyone feared, and saw the flicker of something human behind all that power. "I think," she whispered, "I was too curious." He exhaled slowly, a sound that was almost a laugh, almost a sigh. "Curiosity," he said. "That's how all tragedies begin." For a long moment, they just stared at each other. No words, no movement, only that quiet, electric pull between them. A force neither of them wanted, but both were helpless to resist. When the dinner ended, he walked her out. Didn't touch her, didn't say goodbye, just whispered, "Next time, don't come alone." Then he disappeared into the night, leaving her standing there, breathless, trembling, and certain of one thing: this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of something neither of them could escape. The night after the dinner felt longer than any she'd ever known. Sleep didn't come. Every time Alina closed her eyes, she saw him. The curve of his smile, the shadow in his voice, the quiet threat hidden beneath every word. She told herself she wouldn't see him again. That she'd draw a line, a clean break, but deep down, she knew it was already too late. You can't unsee a man like Dante Moretti. You can only learn how to survive him. The next morning, she woke to silence, the kind that presses against your ears until it feels like a presence. She made coffee, fed the cat, turned on music just to feel normal, but normal didn't come back. Because even from across the city, he lingered. At the gallery, her coworker noticed first. "You okay?" she asked gently. "You've been different." Alina forced a small smile. "Just tired," but the truth was heavier. It wasn't exhaustion. It was awareness of every glance, every sound, every heartbeat that wasn't hers. By late afternoon, she felt it again, that invisible pull. She turned toward the window. Across the street, parked under the shadow of an oak tree, a black car sat idle, tinted windows, no plates, still, silent, watching. Her breath caught. It wasn't paranoia, it was him. Or at least his world. And somehow she wasn't afraid, just alive, as if danger had reawakened something she didn't know she'd lost. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, a single text appeared on her phone. "Unknown number. You walk home alone too often." Her pulse jumped. She typed back before she could stop herself. "Is that concern or control?" No reply, just a dot, typing. Then nothing. A slow exhale left her lips. She should have blocked the number, but she didn't, because part of her wanted to see what he'd do next. That night, it rained again, the kind of soft, delicate rain that made the city glow. She walked home under her umbrella, half expecting a shadow to fall in step behind her, half hoping it would. When she reached her building, she saw it. A bouquet of black roses resting by her door, wrapped in velvet, tied with gold ribbon. No card, no note. But she didn't need one. She already knew whose silence they belonged to. Inside her apartment, she placed them in a vase. Their scent filled the room, rich, dark, intoxicating, and with every breath she felt him closer. Not in the room, but everywhere, in the flicker of lights, in the rhythm of her heart, in the whisper that lived between her thoughts. Dante, meanwhile, sat in his car a block away. Rain slid down the windshield in silver trails. He didn't move, didn't blink, just watched her window glow against the night. His driver spoke softly. "Boss, you want me to—" "No," Dante said quietly. "She's not to be touched. But she's mine to watch." His tone was calm, but his hands betrayed him. A single twitch, a quiet tightening of his jaw. He hated this feeling, this weakness that didn't belong to a man like him. Love? No, not yet. This was possession, and possession, in his world, always came before ruin. Inside, Alina stood by her window, watching raindrops slide down the glass. Somewhere deep inside her, she felt it. A storm was coming, and she knew. He would be the one to bring it. That night, the rain didn't stop. It clung to the city like a secret, heavy, unspoken, endless. And Alina couldn't shake the feeling that every drop carried his name. She told herself she was fine, that the message, the roses, the car, they meant nothing, that she could still walk away. But when she looked at her reflection in the window, she didn't see the same woman anymore. She saw someone caught between fear and fascination, someone who'd tasted danger once and couldn't forget it. The next morning, she arrived at the gallery early. The rain had left the streets shining like liquid glass. She unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and found an envelope resting on her desk. No name. No return address, just her initials, written in elegant slanted ink. Her pulse quickened. She opened it. Inside, a single note. "Not everyone who smiles at you is harmless." Her stomach tightened. This wasn't from him. It couldn't be. The handwriting was different, sharper, colder. A chill ran through her. Someone else was watching her. She looked up, scanning the empty gallery, the silent portraits, the cold marble floor. It felt like eyes were everywhere. Before she could think, her phone buzzed. A message. "Dante, stay inside. Do not leave the building." Her throat went dry. She typed back fast. How do you know what's happening? No reply. She walked to the front door, peered outside, and froze. A man in a dark coat stood across the street, his face hidden beneath an umbrella. He wasn't moving, just waiting. Her phone rang. Unknown number again, she answered, whispering, "Hello." Dante's voice came through, low, calm, dangerous. "Do not move, Alina. He's not one of mine." Her heart hammered. "What do you mean, not one of yours? Who is he?" A long silence. Then, a problem I should have handled years ago. The line went dead. Minutes later, a black car pulled up outside. The door opened, and Dante stepped out. Rain hitting his coat, jaw set tight, eyes burning with control. He crossed the street without hesitation. The man in the coat flinched, took a step back, and then disappeared into the crowd. Dante entered the gallery, dripping water onto the marble. The room felt smaller with him in it, more dangerous, more alive. He looked at her, really looked, like she was the only thing keeping him from breaking apart. "You don't listen," he said softly. "That makes you interesting. And impossible." Alina's voice trembled. "You can't just appear like this. You scare me," he smirked slightly. "If I wanted to scare you, sweetheart, you'd already know." But then his tone shifted, darker, quieter. "I didn't send those roses to frighten you," he paused. "I sent them because you were the first thing I thought of in 20 years that I didn't want to destroy." She blinked, unsure what to say. There was vulnerability in his words, the kind that made her chest ache. He stepped closer. Only a breath separated them. She could smell his cologne, something smoky, sinful, unforgettable. "Why me?" she whispered. He looked down, his eyes soft but dangerous. "Because you don't belong in my world, and that's exactly why I can't stop pulling you into it." For a long moment, the only sound was rain tapping against the windows. Then he turned and walked out, leaving her alone with her heartbeat and the scent of rain and danger. She knew this was the beginning of something she couldn't control, and maybe, deep down, she didn't want to. The next few days felt different. The city didn't just move, it watched. Every corner, every sound carried a shadow that wasn't there before. Alina tried to return to normal. Work, coffee, the gallery, but nothing felt normal anymore, not since Dante stepped into her life. Every time her phone vibrated, she hesitated. Every time a stranger looked her way, she wondered if they knew his name. But it was that night, the night of the warning shot, that changed everything. She was locking up the gallery after dark, rain beginning to fall again. The streets glistened, slick, empty, quiet. Her reflection wavered in the puddles as she stepped out. A black car idled across the street, not his. Different license plate, tinted darker than usual. She didn't look twice. She just started walking. Halfway down the block, the air shifted. That strange stillness before something breaks. Then a single sound. Crack. Glass shattered behind her. The gallery window. She froze. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then another sound. A gunshot echo swallowed by thunder. Her breath caught. Someone had just tried to kill her. Before she could move, the black car screeched across the street. A door flew open, and a familiar voice shouted, "Get in, Alina." It was Dante, his voice, cold, commanding, but filled with something else. Fear. She ran. Rain soaked her hair, her hands shaking as she reached for the handle. He pulled her in, slammed the door shut, and the car sped off into the night. Inside, the air smelled of gunpowder and whiskey. Dante's jaw was clenched tight, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. She turned to him, her voice breaking. Someone tried to... I know." His voice was sharp, protective. "You weren't the target," she blinked. "What?" He didn't look at her, just kept driving. They were sending a message. "To me," her pulse pounded. "To you? Why involve me?" Finally he looked at her, eyes dark, tired, dangerous. "Because they know what you mean to me." Her breath caught. "What I mean to you?" He exhaled, slow, conflicted. "You think I don't know what's happening to me, Alina? You walk into my world, and suddenly I care if someone touches you. That's a weakness I can't afford." She stared at him, her fear mixing with something deeper, longing. "Then why save me?" He turned sharply, stopping the car under a bridge, rain pounding above them. He looked at her with a fire that could burn down the world. "Because I'd rather go to war than let anyone else hurt you." For a moment, she couldn't speak. The way he said it, not as a threat, but a vow, sent chills through her chest. He reached forward, brushing his thumb across her cheek. Rainwater, or maybe a tear. His voice softened. Next time you don't wait for me to tell you to stay inside. A pause. You listen. Their eyes locked. Too close. Too fast. Too dangerous. And before she could think, his hand lingered on her face, his breath brushing her lips. Neither of them moved. They just stayed there, two people caught in a storm they couldn't escape. Finally, he pulled away. Go home, he whispered. I'll handle the rest. As she stepped out of the car, her legs weak, her heart wild, she knew this wasn't just protection anymore. It was something far more dangerous, because the first warning shot had already been fired. And now, there was no going back. The morning after the gunshot felt unreal. The world outside kept spinning, pretending nothing had changed. But Alina felt it in her bones. Everything had. Sleep hadn't come easily. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the flash of the bullet, the gleam in Dante's eyes when he said, "They know what you mean to me." She told herself it was just adrenaline, just fear. But when her phone buzzed that afternoon, her heart jumped like it already knew who it was. The message was short, simple, just 3 words. Dinner, tonight, 8. No name. No location, just coordinates, and a single black heart emoji. She stared at it for minutes, the way you look at a locked door and still wonder what's behind it. Her rational mind whispered, "Don't go." But her heart had already answered. At exactly 8, a car waited for her downstairs. Same tinted windows, same quiet driver who said nothing, just opened the door and nodded. The city lights blurred as they drove through Los Angeles, past the crowded streets, past the noise and color, into the kind of silence that only power can afford. They stopped in front of a private villa overlooking the ocean, modern, elegant, cold. She could smell salt and smoke in the air. Inside, the world was gold and glass. Soft music, dim lights, a single long table with candles and white roses, and at the far end of it, Dante. He wasn't in his usual dark suit. No armor tonight, just a black shirt, sleeves rolled up, collar open, and a look that made her forget how to breathe. "You came," he said quietly, his voice deep. Measured. "I shouldn't have," she whispered. He smiled. Slow. Dangerous. "But you did." She didn't answer. Her hands trembled slightly as she sat down across from him. The table felt like a line drawn between 2 worlds, his and hers. He poured wine, eyes never leaving her. "You're not safe," he said finally. "Last night was proof of that." Her breath hitched. "Then why invite me here?" "Because I don't want to protect you from a distance anymore." His tone softened, but his eyes, they were all fire. "I want you where I can see you." She looked down, unsure what to say. "I'm not part of your world, Dante." "You are now." The words hit like a heartbeat. Deep, final. Silence filled the room again. Only the sound of the ocean against the cliffs, and 2 people pretending not to want what they already did. Then softly, "Why me?" she asked. Her voice almost broke on the words. He leaned back, studying her face. "Because you don't flinch when I get close. Because you look at me like I'm still human." Her chest tightened. "Are you?" He smiled faintly, but his eyes told another story. "Maybe not, but I want to be, when you're near." The air between them changed. Her pulse echoed in her ears, and every second felt stretched thin with something electric. He reached for her glass, his fingers brushing hers. It was the smallest touch, but it carried the weight of everything they hadn't said. For the rest of the dinner, they barely spoke. Every word, every glance felt like a quiet confession. And when she finally stood to leave, he rose too, stepping close. Too close. He didn't kiss her. He just looked at her the way a storm looks at the shore. Like he knew he would come back, and she knew she would let him. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Next time, don't make me ask twice." And before she could reply, he turned and walked away, leaving her heart still burning in her chest. That night, lying in bed, she knew something had changed again. This wasn't just attraction. This was danger wearing the face of love, and she was already too deep to find her way out. The next few days moved differently. Slower. Every hour carried the echo of that dinner, His eyes, his voice, the weight of words that never needed to be spoken. Alina tried to lose herself in work, but every color she painted looked like him. Every silence felt like his presence pressing against her thoughts. She told herself it wasn't real. Just a moment, a mistake of adrenaline and fear. But her body remembered. The way his hand brushed hers. The way he said her name like it wasn't allowed. It was late evening when the knock came. Gentle, firm. The kind of sound that didn't ask permission. She opened the door, and there he was. Dante, black coat. Damp from the rain, eyes darker than the night behind him. "I shouldn't be here," he said, voice low, but his tone betrayed him. He wanted her to tell him otherwise. She hesitated. "Then why are you?" He took a breath, slow, heavy. "Because I can't stop thinking about you." Those words hit her like thunder. Her pulse stuttered. Every part of her screamed to step back, but she didn't. He stepped closer. The space between them dissolved. "I told myself it was control," he whispered. "But when I saw you at that table, I realized control doesn't exist anymore." Her lips parted. She wanted to speak, to stop him, but no words came out. Only breath. He reached up, brushing a strand of hair from her face. His fingers lingered, light, trembling, dangerous. She whispered, "Dante." "We can't," he smiled faintly, almost sad. "I know," then silence. A second stretched too long, and before either of them could change it, his lips were on hers. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't rushed. It was everything they had both been holding back. Fire and restraint, tangled in one impossible moment. Her hands found his shirt. His breath hitched. The world outside disappeared. No rain, no danger, no empire, just this. Two people who should have never met, colliding in a truth too powerful to deny. When he finally pulled away, his forehead rested against hers. Neither spoke, only the sound of shared breath, the rhythm of two heartbeats trying to remember the rules. He whispered, "This shouldn't have happened." She nodded slowly, eyes still closed. But it did. And for the first time, he didn't hide what he felt. The mask of the Mafia boss slipped, just enough for her to see the man underneath. He traced her jawline gently. "I warned you about me, Alina." She met his gaze, unflinching. "And I came anyway." He looked at her like she was both salvation and sin. Then, with one last quiet breath, he turned and left, leaving the taste of him lingering like a promise and the ache of something she could never undo. Sometimes a kiss isn't just desire. It's a decision, the kind that changes everything. And as the rain kept falling, Alina knew, whatever this was, it wasn't ending soon. Some moments aren't planned. They just happen, like gravity giving up, like desire deciding it's done pretending to behave. For Alina, this was that moment. The night was quiet, too quiet. Her brush slipped across the canvas, colors bleeding into something that looked more like memory than art. Every stroke whispered his name. Dante. The Mafia boss who wasn't supposed to matter. The man she couldn't stop feeling. Then came the knock. Gentle, controlled. But underneath it, something wild. She opened the door, and there he stood. Black coat dripping rain, eyes that looked like sin wrapped in restraint. "I shouldn't be here." Her pulse betrayed her. "Then why are you?" He stepped closer. The air tightened. "Because every time I close my eyes, I see you." She froze. Words vanished. All that existed was breath. Shared, uneven, trembling. He reached out, brushing her cheek. The touch was barely there, but her whole world reacted. "We can't, Dante." "Then stop me." She didn't. He leaned in, slow, deliberate, like he was daring fate to interfere, and when his lips met hers, it wasn't a kiss. It was a collision. Fire meeting ice, silence turning into sound, her hands tangled in his shirt. His breath caught in her throat. It was messy, raw, alive. The kind of kiss that writes itself into your pulse and never leaves. When it broke, they stood there, foreheads touching, breath shaking. "Dante, this shouldn't have happened." But it did. He looked at her, really looked, like he was memorizing the danger of her existence. "I warned you about me," he said. She smiled faintly, voice trembling. "And I came anyway." That night, The rain didn't stop. The world didn't change, but something inside them did. Some kisses end. This one didn't. It lived. In every breath, every heartbeat, every glance that dared to remember. For Alina, the world looked the same the next morning, but felt entirely different. The sun rose, the city moved, and yet, every sound, every silence whispered his name. She told herself it was a mistake, a moment of weakness, a spark that should have burned out before dawn. But deep down she knew. You can't mistake something that feels like fate. At her studio, she tried to lose herself in work. But her hands shook when she painted. Her lips still ached from where he'd kissed her. Every color she touched turned into the shade of his eyes. Dark, relentless, unforgiving, and somewhere across the city. Dante felt it too. He sat in his office, suit immaculate, tie perfect, the picture of control. But control is a fragile thing, especially after a woman like her has touched your soul. His men spoke of money, alliances, threats, but he wasn't listening. His mind was still at her door, still tasting rain, still remembering the sound of her whisper against his skin. This is madness. He told himself to stay away. But obsession isn't a choice. It's a current that drags you under before you even know you're drowning. We can't. Then stop me. He ran a hand through his hair, eyes dark with the kind of hunger that ruins men. And for the first time in years, the Mafia boss, the man who owned fear, was afraid. Not of danger, but of what she made him feel. That evening, Alina found herself standing by the same window, the one she always avoided when she felt too much. The rain streaked down the glass like fingerprints. Her reflection looked foreign, flushed, uncertain, alive. She remembered his words, his warning, and the way he'd looked at her afterward. Not like a man who'd won, but like one who'd just lost control. Why does it feel like I've known you forever? She didn't expect an answer, but somewhere, miles away, he felt the same thought echo in his chest. That night, he went to her again. He told himself it was just to make sure she was safe. But when he saw her, barefoot, standing in the dim light of her studio, every reason he'd built to stay away disappeared. Their eyes met. The silence said everything words. Couldn't, Dante. Tell me to leave. I can't. He stepped closer, close enough for her to feel the storm in his breath. Dante, then you'll have to live with what happens next. And she did. Because some decisions aren't made by logic, they're made by heartbeat. And hers had already chosen him. That night didn't end with a kiss. It ended with a promise neither of them spoke, that no matter how far they tried to run, they'd already crossed a line that didn't fade. In his world, love wasn't gentle. It was dangerous, possessive, and forever came with a price. He was the storm she should have never touched, and she was the calm he'd spent his life trying to destroy, just to feel alive again. It wasn't love yet. It was surrender. And the most dangerous thing about surrender is that it always feels like safety right before it burns. Every story of love has a beginning, but theirs had a warning. The morning after that night, the city felt colder. The rain had stopped, but its scent still clung to the air, like the memory of a sin they weren't ready to name. Alina woke up with sunlight bleeding through her curtains, the warmth touching her bare shoulder like a ghost of his hands. She pulled the blanket tighter, as if she could trap the moment before it vanished. But love, especially a dangerous one, never stays where you left it. Her phone buzzed. A message. From him, Dante. Don't go anywhere today. Simple, commanding, like a man who was used to being obeyed. But it wasn't the words that made her heart race. It was the fact that he cared enough to warn her. Still, a warning from a mafia boss isn't romance. It's a storm signal, she typed back, then deleted every word. Because what could she say? That she missed him? That she hated herself for wanting him again? No, instead she lied onto herself first. Don't worry. I'm fine. Her first lie. Small. Harmless. But it was enough to start everything that came after. Across town, Dante sat in the back of his black car. The city passed in streaks of light through tinted glass. His phone in hand, her message still glowing on the screen. He read it once, twice, and didn't believe a word. Fine, he muttered. Nobody in his world was ever fine. He looked out the window, his jaw tight, eyes shadowed. The lie wasn't just hers. He was lying too. To himself, to his men, to the code he'd lived by his entire life. No feelings. No attachments. No weaknesses. But Alina had already become all three. He entered his office, greeted by silence and the faint scent of gun oil. Luca, his right-hand man, stood waiting. "Boss, the Rossi deal went bad. They're asking questions about the girl." "What girl? The artist?" "The one from last week." His name froze in Dante's throat. Her name was never supposed to leave his world. "Dante, no one touches her." "Do you understand me?" "But boss." "No one." His voice dropped to a threat colder than steel. Luca didn't ask again. Love had already become his biggest liability. That evening, she sat alone in her studio. The same canvas untouched since he last stood there. The colors had dried, just like the truth she couldn't tell. She wasn't fine. She wasn't safe. And she wasn't ready to admit that her heart now belonged to a man who could destroy entire families with one call. Her phone rang again. Unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. "You shouldn't be near him." "Who is this?" "Someone who knows what Dante is capable of." "Walk away before he makes you disappear too." The line cut. Silence. She dropped the phone. For a second, the air around her felt like it was closing in, the first crack of fear. And when the doorbell rang, her heart stopped. It was him. Dante. He stepped in, soaked in rain, eyes darker than she'd ever seen. "Someone called me. Said I should stay away from you. You should have listened." Truth and lies blurred in the space between them. She wanted answers. He wanted her safe, even if it meant hiding everything. But in the world he ruled, protection always came with a price. And her first lie had already set the trap. The first lie wasn't about love. It was about survival. And now, neither of them could turn back. Fear changes the way you see the world. The same corners, the same faces, they all start to look unfamiliar. For Alina, the night Dante came to her door was the moment everything turned. He didn't knock again. He just stood there, soaked from the rain, his presence filling the silence like a shadow that didn't belong. "Alina, you shouldn't be here." "Neither should they." She frowned, confused. But he was already scanning the street behind her, his hand brushing the inside of his coat, ready for a threat she couldn't see. "Dante, what's going on?" "Someone's been following you. 3 men, one at the cafe, another near your building." His tone was calm, but his eyes, they carried the weight of violence barely contained. Alina's pulse stuttered. She wanted to argue, to demand answers. But the truth was, she'd felt it too. That sense of being watched. That invisible gaze at the back of her neck. Sometimes you don't need proof to know danger has found you. You can feel it breathing. She stepped aside, letting him in. Rainwater pooled on the floor behind him as he entered. Black suit clinging to him, his presence like heat in a cold room. "Why would anyone follow me?" "Dante. Because they know me." He said it like a confession. No excuses, no lies. Just the truth, raw and dangerous. "You brought this to my life?" "I tried not to." His jaw tightened. He moved closer, not touching her, not yet, but close enough that she could smell the rain on his skin. "They'll try to use you. To get to me." Her breath caught. For a moment, the air between them thickened. Fear and desire tangled in the same heartbeat. He wanted to protect her, but the problem with men like Dante, protection often looked a lot like possession. Later that night, she sat by the window after he left. He'd promised to keep her safe, but his words echoed like chains. "Don't go anywhere without me. Not the gallery, not the cafe, nowhere." It should have made her feel secure. Instead, it felt like the world was shrinking, and he was the only thing left inside it. Her phone buzzed again. A message. "Unknown number. Text. He can't save you forever." The screen flickered. And just like that, the threat in the shadows had a voice. She called him. He answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" "At home." Someone texted me again. "Lock every door." "I'm on my way." The line went dead. And in that silence, she heard something outside. A sound, a car door shutting, then footsteps. Fear doesn't ask for permission, it just moves in. She grabbed a kitchen knife, her hand trembling. Each step toward the door felt like walking through smoke. And then, knock, knock. Her heart jumped into her throat. "Dante?" No answer. The knob turned unslowly. Her breath hitched, ready to scream, to fight. And then his voice, low, rough, familiar. "Dante. It's me." She opened the door. He pulled her into his arms instantly, his heartbeat pounding against her cheek. Next time, you call me before you're scared. Next time. He looked at her, the rain on his face glinting in the hallway light like sweat or tears. There won't be a next time. But there would be. Because in his world, threats never vanished. They waited, patient, unseen. And that night, as he stayed with her, sitting by her window, gun in hand, watching the city outside, she realized something she hadn't before. He wasn't just fighting for her safety. He was fighting himself. Because the deeper he fell for her, the more dangerous he became. To her. And to everyone who dared to touch her world. The threat was never just in the shadows. It was in the heartbeat of the man who swore to protect her. By morning, the storm had passed. But the air in Alina's apartment still carried the scent of fear and something else. Something heavier. Dante hadn't slept. He sat by the window all night, a shadow against the dawn, his gun resting on the table beside an untouched cup of coffee. You didn't have to stay. Yes, I did. His tone wasn't protective, it was possessive. The kind that didn't ask for permission. When he looked at her, it wasn't with kindness. It was with hunger. The kind that didn't belong to a man who saved you. It belonged to a man who couldn't stop himself. She walked to the kitchen, barefoot, trying to find normal in a world that no longer felt like hers. He followed, silent, unreadable. You can't keep doing this. Doing what? Showing up, taking control, acting like I care. His words cut sharper than he meant them to, but the truth lingered behind them. He did care. Too much. Just then, the knock at the door broke the silence. 3 short taps. Familiar, controlled. Dante's body stiffened instantly. Dante, stay here. He opened the door to find Luca, his most trusted bodyguard. Tall, broad, eyes like stone. Luca's gaze shifted from Dante to Alina, and back. We need to talk, alone. Not now. Now, boss. It wasn't often someone spoke to Dante that way. But Luca had been with him for years, long enough to see the cracks before they broke a man in half. They stepped into the hallway. The air outside the door felt colder, sharper. You're slipping. Watch your words. I am, but someone has to say it. Luca's tone dropped lower, a soldier warning his king. You've made enemies in 3 families this month. You think they won't notice her? I'll handle it, Luca. Like you handled the hit last night? They were outside her building, Dante. She's not part of this world. Silence. Then, she is now. Sometimes, love doesn't save a man. It just gives his darkness a reason to stay. Luca shook his head, exhaling through his teeth. You think you're protecting her, but you're dragging her into a war she can't survive. You think I don't know that? Then prove it. Let her go before it's too late. For a moment, Dante said nothing. He just stared past his friend, to the door behind which Alina waited, hands trembling on the other side of the wood. He could leave, walk away. End it now, and before it became something he couldn't control. But the problem was, he already couldn't. He turned away from Luca. Dante, get more men on her street. No one moves without my order. So that's it, huh? You're going to claim her like property? Dante's jaw clenched. His eyes darkened. She's not property. She's mine. Luca looked at him for a long time. The kind of look that says everything words can't. Then God help her. Dante stood there for a while, the weight of that warning heavy in his chest. When he finally walked back inside, Alina was standing by the window, sunlight spilling across her face, innocent, fragile, and completely unaware that her life had just changed forever. Everything okay? Not yet. There was no going back now. The line between protection and obsession had blurred, and the man who once swore to keep her safe was becoming the danger she needed saving from. Every warning means nothing when the heart's already chosen its poison. There's a moment before desire takes over, when silence becomes heavier than words. That's where they were, stuck in that impossible space between don't and can't stop. Dante hadn't left since morning. He sat by her window again, his eyes tracing the city lights like he was trying to memorize the shape of control. But control was gone. He just didn't know how to admit it. You don't have to stay. You keep saying that. Because maybe one day you'll listen. And maybe one day, you'll stop wanting me to. Her breath caught, not because of his words, but because of the way he said them. like a confession disguised as a threat. He stood slowly, crossing the space between them, each step deliberate, like he was walking into something sacred. She didn't back away. She never did. "Why do you look at me like that?" "Like what?" "Like I'm a mistake you can't stop making." He smiled barely. That kind of smile that looks like pain dressed as charm, Dante, because that's exactly what you are. He was too close now. Close enough for her to feel the warmth of his breath against her skin. Close enough for every warning in her head to go silent. Her hand brushed his wrist. Accidental. Almost. But it was enough. Something inside him broke. He reached for her. Not roughly, not gently either. Just real. His fingers slid beneath her jaw, lifting her chin as if the world existed only to witness what came next. "Tell me to stop." "I can't." And then, he kissed her. Not like a man who wanted to claim, but like one who'd been starving for years and finally remembered what breathing felt like. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't soft. It was everything they'd been denying. Fear, anger, ache, need, all crashing into a single heartbeat. When he pulled back, her lips trembled, her pulse wild. "Why do I feel like this?" "Because you already know what happens next." She looked at him, confused, and then saw it. That flicker in his eyes, half warning, half promise. "You'll ruin me, Dante." Too late. He didn't mean to say it, but some truths slip out when the heart's done pretending. He turned away, running a hand through his hair, trying to steady his breathing, trying to remember who he was before her. But she followed, her voice soft, trembling. "You keep saving me, but I don't think you realize you're the one I need saving from." That stopped him cold. He looked at her, and for the first time the mask cracked. "You think I don't know that?" He moved closer again, slower, quieter. But this time his touch wasn't a claim. It was an apology he didn't know how to speak. "You should hate me." "Maybe I do." "Then why are you shaking?" The room felt smaller, the world outside, irrelevant. It was just them. Two people circling the same fire, pretending they wouldn't get burned. And when he kissed her again, it wasn't to possess. It was to remember what it felt like to lose control, and to finally stop fighting it. That night didn't end with love. It ended with surrender. And in Dante's world, surrender was just another word for fate. Mornings always tell the truth. They peel away what the night tried to hide. And when sunlight touched her skin that day, Alina knew. Nothing was the same anymore. The kiss hadn't left her. It lingered like a secret whispered into her heartbeat. She could still feel it. The taste, the heat, the ache that shouldn't have followed. She sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. The room felt smaller, as if the air itself remembered what happened. Every heartbeat echoed the same question: what have I done? Across the room, Dante stood by the window. His jacket hung loose on his shoulders, his expression unreadable. That dangerous mix of calm and conflict he wore so well. He didn't look at her at first. He just watched the city, as if the skyline could give him the discipline he'd lost the night before. "You're leaving?" "I should." "Then why aren't you?" He turned finally, and when their eyes met, the air changed. She saw the storm behind his stillness, the man torn between desire and duty. "You think last night meant nothing?" "I think it meant too much." "That's the problem." He walked closer. One step, then another, until she could feel the weight of him again. The same pull that made her forget who she was. "You don't understand." "Alina, my world doesn't forgive weakness." "Then don't call it weakness." "What would you call it?" "Human." Her voice trembled, but her eyes didn't. And that was what undid him the most. She wasn't afraid of him, not his name, not his past, not his power. She only feared what she felt. And that made her the most dangerous woman in his life. He reached for her hand, slowly, as if even that touch required permission. Her fingers met his, and something inside both of them broke open. "You don't know what you're asking for." "I'm not asking. I'm already in it." Outside, the rain grew heavier, each drop sounding like a countdown. Every word they didn't say filled the silence between them. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, a simple gesture, but it carried the weight of everything he couldn't speak aloud. "If you stay near me, they'll use you. Then teach me how not to break." "You think that's something you can learn?" "If it means surviving you, yes." He laughed once, quietly, without joy. The kind of laugh that hides pain behind charm. He wanted to push her away. He needed to, but every part of him that knew how was already gone. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed her knuckles like a man making a vow he'd regret. "You'll hate me one day. Then at least I'll feel something real." For a long time, neither of them moved. Only the sound of rain filled the space between them, two people standing at the edge of something beautiful and doomed. When he finally left, he didn't look back, because looking back meant admitting what was already true, that she wasn't a mistake anymore. She was a weakness he would burn the world to protect. And as the door shut behind him, Alina sat alone, her heart louder than the storm, because deep down, she already knew that kiss wasn't an ending. It was a promise, and promises made in his world always come with a price. Promises in his world were never made with words alone. They were written in blood, sealed in silence, and paid for, always, in pain. That morning, Dante sat alone in his office. The blinds were half closed, slicing sunlight into thin, cruel lines across his face. The city outside roared with life, but inside, there was only the sound of his heartbeat and the echo of her name in his mind. He had never been this distracted. And for a man like Dante Moretti, distraction was dangerous. He opened the drawer beside him. Inside, a small silver bracelet lay wrapped in velvet. It wasn't just jewelry, it was the one thing Alina had left behind. He turned it over in his hand, his thumb tracing its curve, a reminder of everything he couldn't have, and everything he refused to let go of. You shouldn't matter this much, but she did, more than he'd ever admit, even to himself. A knock at the door broke his thoughts. Marco, his right-hand man, stepped in, expression sharp, eyes cold. "Marco, we've got a problem. Someone followed her last night." Dante. "Her?" "Marco. Your girl." Dante's chair creaked as he leaned back, calm on the surface, but his knuckles had already gone white. Dante. "Who?" "Marco. Not one of ours. Probably Salerno's men. They know she's not just anyone now." A silence fell between them, the kind that carried weight. Dante. "Handle it." Marco. "And the girl?" Dante. "She doesn't need to know." But she already did. Across the city, Alina stood by her window, watching the street below. The same black car from last night was parked near the corner. Engine off, lights dimmed, but she could feel the eyes on her. She'd promised herself she wouldn't call him, that she wouldn't need him, but fear had a way of rewriting promises. Her phone buzzed once, no name, no number. "Don't open the door," her breath caught. Before she could respond, 3 heavy knocks echoed through her apartment. "Dante!" The handle turned. A second later, the door swung open and Dante was there. Black coat, cold eyes, every line of him radiating control and fury. "I told you to stay inside. You were watching me?" "I always watch you." She should have been angry, but all she felt was relief, the kind that burned through fear and left only truth behind. "You're scaring me." "Good. Maybe then you'll listen." He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel the heat from his breath. "They think you're leverage, Alina, that you're my weakness. Aren't I?" For a heartbeat, he didn't answer. Then his voice dropped dark and raw. "You're the only thing keeping me human." Her chest tightened, because for all the danger in his tone, what scared her most wasn't his world. It was how much she wanted to belong in it. "And what happens if your promise costs me everything? Then I'll make sure you never have to pay it." But they both knew. In the world they shared, love was never free. Every touch had a shadow. Every promise came with a price, and tonight, the debt was coming due. Love and loyalty don't survive long in Dante Moretti's world. Not when both are built on lies. That night, the city wore a storm like a secret, rain on glass, thunder whispering through the skyline. And somewhere beneath it all, a betrayal waited to be born. Inside the mansion, the tension was sharp enough to cut. Men moved quickly, whispers, footsteps, phone calls that stopped mid-sentence when Dante entered the room. His presence alone was enough to make silence obey. Marco, hesitant. "Boss? We found something. Say it." "It's her father. He's not dead." The words hit harder than a bullet. For a second, Dante didn't move, didn't breathe. That's impossible. He's alive. And he's been working with Salerno. The sound of thunder swallowed the room. Alina's father, The man she believed was gone. The man Dante had promised to protect her from even in memory was alive. And worse, he was part of the enemy's circle. Find him. Now. But what Dante didn't know was that Alina had already found out. Across the city, she stood in a dimly lit alleyway, her hood soaked through from the rain. The message had come from an untraceable number. If you want answers about your father, come alone. Every instinct told her it was a trap, but the one thing stronger than fear was the ache of not knowing. When the door opened, she froze. The man who stepped out wasn't a ghost. He was flesh and bone, older, harder, but unmistakable. Dad, his eyes softened, just for a moment. Father, you shouldn't have come. Here. Alina, you let me believe you were dead. Father, because it was safer that way. But before she could ask what he meant, the sound of boots echoed from the shadows. Salerno's men, guns raised. Sorry, sweetheart. He's worth more alive than you are. Everything happened fast. A flash of metal, a scream, the sting of smoke. And then in the black car again. Dante's. He stepped out like vengeance itself, coat drenched, eyes blazing, gun steady. Dante, touch her, and I'll bury you all. The men hesitated, just long enough for his shot to find its mark. Chaos, screams, rain, then silence. When it was over, Alina was shaking, soaked, and staring at the man she both feared and loved. Alina, you followed me. Dante, you think I'd ever let you walk into hell alone? He looked at her father, bleeding, alive, guilty. And the truth finally took shape between them. Dante, he sold information. About me, about you. He traded your safety for his freedom. Her breath broke. Part sob, part disbelief. Alina, no. He wouldn't, Dante. He already did. There were no more words, just rain, and the sound of something inside her breaking. Dante reached out, not to pull her closer, but to keep her from falling. Because he knew what she didn't yet, that love and betrayal often wear the same face. And in this war, blood was never just family. That night, something inside both of them changed. She learned what love costs. He learned what forgiveness can't fix. And as dawn crept over the city, one truth remained. The deeper the love, the darker the betrayal. By morning, the world was different. Not because the sun rose, but because it felt like it shouldn't have. The mansion was quiet. Too quiet. Like even the walls knew something sacred had been broken. Dante hadn't slept. He stood by the window, jacket gone, sleeves rolled, staring at the horizon that never seemed to arrive. The city below was waking up, unaware that everything was about to burn. Behind him, Alina stood in the doorway. Her eyes were red, but her voice was steady. Alina, you're going after him, aren't you? He betrayed you. He betrayed me. There's no world where he walks away from that. She stepped closer, slow, deliberate. Every inch between them carried the weight of everything they hadn't said. Alina, and if I ask you not to? Dante, then I'll disobey you for the first time. Her breath caught, because somewhere beneath all that control, his voice cracked, just slightly. Enough for her to hear the man behind the legend. Alina, you think killing him will fix this? Dante, no. But it'll stop me from hating myself for letting him live. He turned then, eyes sharp, jaw tense, but his heart already surrendering. She looked fragile in the soft light, but her defiance glowed. You can't fight every ghost, Dante. Dante, I can try. A pause. The kind that feels like goodbye even before it happens. Alina, if you walk out that door, you lose me. Silence. Then, a faint smile, bitter and beautiful. Dante, no, Angel. I lost you the moment I fell for you. He reached out, one last time, his fingers brushing her cheek, tracing the tears she hadn't realized were falling. She leaned into his touch like she always had, not because she forgave him, but because she couldn't not. Then kiss me once more, so I know what I'm losing. He didn't hesitate, didn't speak, just pulled her close and kissed her, slow, deep, desperate. The kind of kiss that doesn't ask for a future, only remembers the past. When it ended, neither of them moved. Because moving meant ending it. Dante, low, rough. If there's a heaven, it's that moment. Alina. And hell? Dante. Everything after. He stepped back. The distance between them felt colder than the rain outside. Then he left, without another word, without a glance back. Because men like him didn't get to turn around. That was the last time she saw him before the war began, before blood met blood, before the streets ran red with the cost of their love. He became a legend that night, the man who burned an empire for one woman. And she, the reason the devil himself hesitated before pulling the trigger. Love didn't save them. It rewrote them, and in the ashes of what they'd destroyed, only one truth remained: some kisses start wars. Theirs ended one. The city woke up the same way it always did, with noise, light, and the illusion that everything was still standing. But some mornings don't belong to the living. They belong to the ghosts who earned them. The war ended quietly. No fireworks, no victory, just rain on broken streets, and a name whispered through the smoke: Dominic Rafe Moretti. The man who loved once, and never again. Alina left that city not because she wanted to, but because staying meant bleeding in the same rhythm forever. She took nothing with her. No pictures, no jewelry, only a sketch, unfinished, two shadows reaching for each other but never touching. Years passed. The world changed, but some memories don't obey time. Sometimes late at night, she still dreams of him. The quiet in his voice, the way his eyes found her in a crowded room, as if the universe had only built that moment for them. She wakes up breathless, not from fear, but from remembering what it felt like to be seen by someone who never looked at anyone else. They said he died that night, in the fire, in the chaos, in the story no one dared to write down. But legends don't end that easily. Some say a man with his eyes was seen years later, on a small island off Italy's coast, a quiet place, a villa hidden behind the cliffs. This was one kiss to make her ex jealous. Now the Mafia boss wants her forever. A story of danger, devotion, and the price of love. And that's where their story pauses, not ends. Because love like that never disappears. It waits. It watches. It comes back stronger than fate expected. If their world pulled you in, if you felt their heartbeat, their danger, their impossible love, then don't just leave now. Hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and join the BRD family, where every story feels real, every heartbeat matters, and every love burns a little darker and deeper. This is BRD Stories Hub, where romance isn't soft. It's powerful, it scars, it chooses, and once it finds you, there's no going back. See you in the next story. Until then, stay dangerous, stay in love, and stay subscribed. And every morning, a single black car drives to the pier, carrying white lilies, the flowers she loved most. Maybe love isn't about happy endings. Maybe it's about the moments that survive them, the touch that lingers, the name that still hurts, the promise that outlives the people who made it. Because somewhere between her silence and his sin, they found something that neither heaven nor hell could erase. One kiss. One mistake, one forever. And if you listen closely, you can still hear it. That heartbeat, that whisper, that promise that refused to die until forever finds us again.